to the 9th edition of the Halifax Black Film Festival, presented by Fabian Calas Foundation in collaboration with Global News Halifax. The festival runs from February 28th to March 4th, 2025. You can explore the full program and secure your passes or individual tickets at halifaxblackfilm.com. Thank you all so much for joining. I am your host, Kaya Sparks. I've worked in Halifax's media industry for over a decade, and I have produced and directed hundreds of radio, TV, and film content. And I was raised in the African Nova Scotian communities of the Preston Township as well as Weymouth Falls. So before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathering today in the place of Mi'kma'ki, the traditional unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I would also like to acknowledge that Nova Scotia has another unique people, and these are the Indigenous African Nova Scotians, whose legacy and contributions date back over 400 years, predating the Confederation of this land. We are all treaty people. So this panel is titled Young BIPOC Filmmakers Shaping the Next Generation. This panel will spotlight emerging young BIPOC filmmakers who are redefining the landscape of cinema in Halifax and beyond. Participants will share their inspirations, processes, and the fresh perspectives they bring to storytelling. The discussion will cover topics such as mentorship, accessibility in the film, education, and the role of youth shaping industry trends. By showcasing their innovative work and discussing their visions for the future, this panel aims to inspire both young creators and industry veterans to foster new ideas and collaborations that uplift underrepresented voices in filmmaking. So let's meet our speakers. So Temi Shadunke is a public health practitioner and a visual storyteller and mentor. A visual storyteller using photo voice to illuminate mental health accessibility challenges. As an art in medicine fellow, she creates compelling visual narratives that bridge healthcare and art. With experience across Africa and internationally, Temi brings a unique perspective that combines health advocacy with powerful visual storytelling techniques to amplify marginalized voices. Shanice Lord, she's an actress and creative who recently located to Halifax from Barbados. Her creative career began by creating skits and posting to YouTube, which exposed her to the world of film and acting. After falling in love with film, she then trained with various coaches, which led to her appearance in films and commercials. Shanice is excited to connect with local talent and highlight stories from other immigrants and artists. Andre Anderson is a film director and community advocate. He's a visionary filmmaker, storyteller, and community advocate amplifying African Nova Scotian narratives. As founder of Anderson Films, Inc., he merges storytelling with social impact, creating compelling documentaries and films that spark change. A passionate leader, he champions diversity, mental health, and youth empowerment in Canada's creative industries. Welcome, speakers. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having
us. So I guess we'll start with you, Andre. What what is it that inspired your journey into the film industry?
Thank you. So my inspiration really came from wanting to tell stories that reflect the lived experiences of African Nova Scotians. You know, stories that often aren't always highlighted in mainstream Canadian media. So my journey from studying business to storytelling through film has really taught me the importance of innovation and resilience, and seeing the impact of work such as my first documentary, Standing Tall, or my upcoming docuseries, Through Our Eyes. Stories like that really have shown me that film and media can be a tool for change and empowerment.
Very nice. What about you, Shanice? What inspired you to get into the industry?
So I'd say watching series when I was younger. Specifically, I remember, do you know a show called That's So Raven?
Yes.
Yep, yes, that was it for me. I remember watching it and like feeling very, very excited. Like she just brought that out in me. I wanted to make other people feel like that as well. So that really like propelled me to like, what is this thing that she's doing? How did she get in that little box? Like, how can I get in that box as well? So where I'm from, there were not a lot of opportunities for film and acting. So like as I got older and stuff, I started to be like, hey, like I need to figure this out on my own. Like I learned to write, I learned to act, so to speak, and edit, and I just started putting my own stuff together, and that's how I got my start. That's really what inspired me. That's So Raven.
That's so Raven. It's the future I can see. Yeah, millennials, we know, we know. What about you, Temmie?
Thank you so much. So, I've always loved movies, like even as a child. And then growing up and being in the health space, I've I've found out that photography, which is something I like, and film as well, it's a creative way of people telling and sharing their stories beyond words. So that over the years to get into this space, and coming into Canada as a Black immigrant, realized some of the struggles of people in the medical field, and being in the film industry helps me to bridge that gap, because as much as we are in the health space, film or art-based methods have been in recent times a very useful tool to communicate people's struggles, resilience, like Andre mentioned, and many other unique opportunities come through when you're able to merge like art and medical field together. So that's really been what has inspired me.
I love that. So the string here is the representation and amplifying Black voices. That's it. That's where it comes from. And so I find that is, I mean, that just shows like our resilience and like, the importance of sharing our stories and what it means to us to have our story shared. So when, first trying to get into the industry and, maybe not knowing anything about the industry, but knowing that you have inspiration to create, um, what type of resources did you guys depend on? What steps did you take, or what recommendations would you may have for others who may want to be in the industry, that and the steps that you took to get there, that might be helpful for others? Does anyone want to chime in first on this one?
Sure. So my entry into the industry, I actually got into the industry from an early age when I was 15. on a CBC television show as an actor. And I spent many years as an actor here in Halifax and also for a time in Toronto. And, you know, it took me, I think, longer than it should have to really realize that, you know, instead of telling all these other stories, I could start to create my own. And so that's one thing that I would really say for other people looking to get into the industry is, you know, really go for it and don't be afraid to start out as a beginner, you know, because that's how everybody starts out. And so after about 10 years or so of acting, I decided to go into directing more so. Again, like we said, to mention, like, to tell the stories of resilience of our communities and to bring those stories to the forefront. And when I first started, I really just started, my first documentary was on Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard. And, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of access to the greatest equipment or the largest team, but I did have a very compelling story. And I think that's where I would suggest that people start, you know, because if you have all the greatest equipment in the world, but your story falls flat, then people are going to notice that right away. And if you have a story that's, you know, incredible, such as Senator Thomas Bernard's, then that's what people are really going to gravitate towards. And they're not going to judge you as being a new filmmaker on the fact that you didn't have the greatest IMAX camera. You know, they're going to appreciate the fact that you were able to access that story and bring that story to an audience. And so that's some of the things that I would kind of give as suggestions for new people entering the industry.
I love that. That's great. What about you, Temi?
Okay. Yes, thank you so much for sharing, Andrea. And for me, I think two things stand out for me, especially because I don't have like so much background in the film industry, but I think it's what people can leverage on. So the first one I would say is I'm a firm believer in faith. So I would say whatsoever you find your hands doing, you do it well. So there are situations where you just get something small, but then that small thing, you have to be able to do it diligently. So that's really what has helped me. So for me, I volunteered for the Halifax Black Film Festival 2023. And there I was able to meet with, like, I was a volunteer coordinator. And then on that, I learned more about the film industry. Even though personally I developed my photography skill, I would take pictures anywhere in the church, charity organizations, spaces for my friends, family, because it was something I was passionate about, which is why I'm like, if you find something you're doing, if you know that you want to build yourself in the film industry, and then even if it's short documentaries, short videos you do for people, just make sure you put in the best. And the second one I would say is relationships. So wherever you find yourself, you just be good to people, because you don't know who can recommend you for the next, would I call it like a gig, or the next opportunity. So once you treat relationships with care and you respect people, you do what you're supposed to do part time, then you can get higher opportunities. So those are the two I would say really helped me.
I love that. That's awesome. The relationship building, very important. Shanice, you started on YouTube. So how, like, what was that like? Did you just start putting videos out yourself and editing them? And what kind of gave you that courage to say, okay, I'm going to do this?
You know, time was getting away. Time was getting away. I always had this dream, but I did not know like how I was going to get there. So I like days would just be going by. I'm like, I want to be an actress, like, but like I'm not acting. So like, what can I do? So my advice to piggyback off what Andre and Tammy said, create your own opportunities would be something that I tell people like trying to get into the industry. Like just start. Like Andre said, like don't worry about the equipment and all that. When I started on YouTube, I had like a stack of books and a wonky iPad, which had probably like 8 gigs of memory. So I would record like maybe like 5 minutes of a video, and then like it would stop because I didn't have any memory. But you just need to start, like get your feet wet, figure it out, and upgrade as you go. And another thing that Tammy touched on, relationships. The first movie that I was in as an actress, I remember like one of the producers, he was like, "Oh, you got the bug." Like after I finished my filming time, after I wrapped, I came back and I was like, "Hey, y'all need any help?" I didn't know what that help meant, but then it turned into me being a production assistant. And building relationships with people, like you talk to people, you find out there are so many different people involved in a film, and you're kind to people, they're gonna start telling you about their role, which is then gonna enhance your quality on the set, because you get to learn different things. No film school. So create your own opportunities, talk to people, be nice, network with people, and that's all you need to start, really.
Absolutely. And the internet is a beautiful thing. You can go on Facebook and find groups that are always looking for help. I mean, with TikTok and Instagram Reels, like you can edit right through the apps. I've seen on TikTok people create entire series of videos, and they keep you hanging on your chair because it's like, it's like cliffhanger. You're waiting for the next, like, what's going to happen next? And they're like, okay, well, for part 2, go to my page, right? So
Exactly.
there's so many ways now to actually get your content out there, and whatever it is that you like doing, you can do that online. There is such a great platform. So very good tips. But what type of collaborative supports would you guys like to see taking place in Halifax so that other creators like yourself can network together? What type of things would you like to see that may not be happening now, or that are happening that people may not be aware of? Anyone want to take this one first?
I'll let the OG speak, because technically I just got to Halifax, so like probably like 6 months ago. So I'm still now figuring it out. Everything that I've seen so far has been great. Like I've been going to like events, which brought me to this opportunity. So I'm gonna let the OGs handle that question.
I think that mentorship opportunities are crucial for our community. I think that is big because it allows relationship building. It allows the mentor to really showcase themselves as a prominent member of the film community. And of course, it allows young people, or not just young people, but emerging people, to learn quickly, to learn skills quickly. And ideally, they can learn from the trials and errors that people have gone through before them, instead of them having to always do trial and error and make those mistakes themselves. And so I think that obviously like funding is a big thing, but I think funding mentorship opportunities and possibilities in the BIPOC community specifically can really help to revitalize the industry and really open up the industry to a sea of potential talent in BIPOC creators.
Yes, I agree with what Andre just said because the mentorship opportunities are a big one. Because I feel like it's from that we're able to like even have this conversation in first place. So mentorship is a big one, like having ops where people can share creative ideas, and even if it doesn't have to be like a big thing with social media now, it's easy to share what you've done. So having those little spaces where people can collaborate, and then you see people who have gone so far in the field having to like also speak to them, mentor them, or even share ideas about their past experiences. Like Shanice had talked about events. So I think just making people more aware, especially the Black community, and even going down to schools. Like we have universities here, St. Mary's Dal, where young people can just have a meet or greet session with possible mentors, and then see how best they can make things happen. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. I know, like, any opportunity I can get to share my experiences with people, especially students, and just like inspiring the next generation. Anytime people have questions, like, I'm always there because I just see that there is a gap in representation, and it would just be so refreshing to see more representation in the industry and more people realizing, like, if she can do it, I can do it, right?
Can I just add one more thing to that as well?
Yes, of course.
I think also we kind of touched on it earlier, but about the fact that there's so many different roles on a film set. And so I think that, showcasing all the different ways that you can affect a film or a short film or a narrative or a documentary or what have you, there really is a place for everybody. And so I think really enforcing that mentality and showing people, opening their eyes to, more than just acting or more than just directing or showing them cinematography or showing them sound editing or showing them whatever. Just making sure that when people enter the industry, that they know right away that there's different options for them and not just streamline people into one line of work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Andre, what's your favorite role in the industry? What do you enjoy like doing the most?
I think for me, based off of my personality and my historical experiences, I really find myself as a director. I think, one thing people ask me is what it's like being a director, and I tell them, you have to be essentially good at throwing a party. You have to be someone that can manage a lot of different people who are doing a lot of different things. You also have to be someone who can improvise because 9 times out of 10, something on a film set is going to go not according to plan. And if you're somebody that is, gets freaked out over changes, then it's going to be difficult for you to really sit in that directing chair. And I find myself, with a film, with an improv theater background, I find that really helps me in terms of the directing chair. And I enjoy the responsibility of being a director because things are really on you. If the film really struggles and things don't go well, a lot of people are going to look at you. But also, if the film goes really well and the audience really enjoys themselves, then a lot of people are going to, again, look at you. And I enjoy that challenge. So I would say, personally, I really enjoy the director's chair.
Awesome. What about you, ladies? Is there some like roles that you enjoy, or maybe something that you would like to do more of?
Okay. Yeah, I think for me too, I actually like the directing role because at some point I was like, okay, I want to like actually feature in the film, but the director role gives you more opportunity to actually have your idea come to life. So I think that's the beauty for me, like you having something in your head, but then now seeing it real time, it gives a shift, because that way you are able to like communicate what you want people to see exactly and how you want it to be seen, as opposed to if you're just like a part of the puzzle. So I think for me, the directing role, it's really a beautiful role, and it's something that you also learn from. And going back to the relationship piece, I feel like it's also a role where you have to learn people's skills, because people really like sometimes you just have to be very flexible with people, and how you manage situations and how you can think on your feet, because if something happens and it's explosive, you just have to think of how to fix it. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting position, and it's something I enjoy doing. So over to you, Shanice.
I guess I am the only child really at heart here. I really enjoy playing, so acting would be top for me. Acting for sure.
Now, like when it comes to act, are you like dramatic? Do you like to fake cry, or are you more comedic style? Like what type of energy are you giving when as an actress?
Listen, when them tears come down on the screen, ain't nothing fake about it. I bring the character out.
Yeah.
Crying on screen is very, very hard. I do enjoy comedy though. Like I really love to laugh and I love to make people laugh. But when it's time for drama, like I could get down and dirty with drama. Yeah, so I'd say more so comedy though.
I love that. Now, have you discovered any theater schools or acting clubs or anything like that while you've been here in Halifax?
I have seen a few. However, when I came, I guess the season like was kind of slow. So I haven't joined any as yet. I've been in one commercial since I got here. But I have seen improv groups and like theater companies and stuff. So it seems to be pretty active over here.
Yes, I definitely see the industry growing. I see so much going on, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely over the past few years, the industry has definitely grown, and there's a lot more opportunities than there have been in the past. And we're getting some really big productions here, which is quite amazing. It's really great, and it's awesome when you can see, people from the city in Netflix series or, other streaming series. It's really, really cool. So I'm really proud of that our city is definitely upped the game. Um, but what I am curious next about is, what we kind of talked about what inspired you to get into the industry, but when it comes to the projects that you work on or projects that you would like to work on, um, what type of topics are important to you? What topics, I guess, would you maybe like to direct more of or like to feature in the future, that's important that you think should be highlighted?
So for me, right away, like I'm pretty known for doing African Nova Scotian narratives specifically. Not that that's the only thing that I do, but it is a main part of what I do. Essentially, for me, I I just see so many great stories that have been historically looked over, and so to me, it's like I have a sea of opportunity. I have lots of different stories to choose from that are magnificent that I can really bring to life. And so because of that great opportunity, I really dive into that niche a lot, in a great way. Also, I think that stories of relationships, I think that relationships are a very universal, human-centric concept, and they're relatable, because every person has multiple different relationships with different people, and so it's a way that you can hit on a lot of key concepts for audiences that they can really relate to. And then lastly, I would say, I think mental health is a big concept that is coming in the future. Mental health, sustainability, those are two things that I see really growing more in the mainstream as the years go on. And, me, myself, as an innovator, I really like to think about what the future of an industry is going to look like and jump on that train as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very interesting. Temi, do you want to piggyback off of that? Because I feel like your niche is mental health, but is there other avenues that you want to
To
explore?
direct or movies related, health related movies, public health specifically, mental health related, to young people, like Black immigrant stories, stories that talk more around cultural diversity, where culture of Black people can be showcased, like the resilience, the beauty, and things around those narratives, countering stories that are not representative of Black people. Also, Black immigrant stories and people sharing their experiences and journeys since they've been here. So I think those are the story points I would really like to continue to share. Yeah.
And we need more of it, that's for sure.
Yes, especially the health related ones. Yeah, it's almost non-existent really. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And I feel like it's important to have visual storytelling that people can relate to. And it's like when you see it, it's like, I see myself. This is something that, I've experienced this. This is what it is like through my point of view. I love seeing things like that. And just, especially in Nova Scotia, with the rates of, intimate partner abuse and, just different relationships, Andre, like you mentioned. And it's like what those experiences are like in the Black community. It's something that you can't really understand unless you've actually experienced it. And so having Black perspectives telling those stories are extremely important, because I don't think many people will actually truly understand it or get it until they see it. So please continue doing that work, because we need more of that. Shanice, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, like I said, I just got here, but since I've been here, I went to a show recently called Controlled Damage. It was a story about Viola Desmond, and it was a really intriguing story for me because as a newcomer, like, I'm now learning about Nova Scotia's history and like the icons there, so to speak. So telling stories about local heroes and heroines and like even people that are still here to this day, I think that is where the industry should go. And I personally, I don't know if I'd be able to play roles like that, as yet. Of course, with more research and such, but I'd like to see more stuff like that for sure. It was very inspiring to me.
Yeah, like with Viola, it was like a lot of people didn't know who she was until they saw her face on the $10 bill. And then people are like, oh, there's Black people in Nova Scotia? Like, there's people that have been here for over 400 years? Like, what? You know, you go to different parts of Canada and they don't really understand the history or even the experience for Black people in Nova Scotia today, whether it be Indigenous African Nova Scotians or newcomers. It's, you know, everybody has similar but different experiences. So I think that is so important to see. Um, I'm getting inspired just talking about it. Like the wheels are turning, and I'm just thinking of all of the different types of storytelling that can happen, and like in different ways, like short series, like a 30-second reel, a 30-second.
I think documentary is starting to really come to the forefront. Um, I feel that that is in large part due to access in the way that people have phones in their hands with great cameras, and they have access to video cameras at a much more discounted rate than what has historically been. And our world is filled with so many real life stories. It's obviously great to have narrative stories and to have fictional recounts, but there are so many great, real life true stories. And I feel that a trend is starting to really appreciate documentary more as an art.
I agree.
A trend that I'd say I've seen a lot as of lately is people really taking ownership. Like people are not waiting for like big budgets and big production companies anymore. They're really taking like their own destiny into their own hands. I absolutely love that, being where I started. It's kind of like, yes, I'm so glad that everybody is on this path to ownership. So I love that. And I'll continue doing it, and I hope to inspire others to do it as well.
What type of trends do you see happening in the creative industry, filmmaking, content creation that you would like to try that you haven't already? Like what you're most interested in doing when it comes to creating content and how you would like your content to look. So like for example, Andre was talking about doing documentaries because there's so many real life stories that are available, that are accessible, and people have so much access to film equipment these days that like it's so much easier to create a documentary. So the styles of content creation, is there something particular that you might be interested in, whether it's like long form, short form, social media, or even television?
Okay, so thank you for that. I think I'm really interested in documentaries because for me, they give like real life scenarios compared to like movies. I like movies too, like I said earlier, and I like series because that gives you the suspense, like you want more. That's for series. But then for documentary, because most times the stories I like to share are real life touching stories where you have like social problems you're trying to address, like more of social justice type thing. So for me, the documentary would still be like top.
Very nice. Now, is there any specific topic that you are interested in exploring?
Okay. Yeah. So topics, I have many. So topics I would like to explore is mental health in young people, um, international students. And it's interesting that we had one of our colleagues also do something around international students. I'm really passionate about them and their struggles especially being in another country and having to settle, pressures of settling, and racism and different things they undergo. So that's a strong storyline for me. And yeah, I think that will be it.
So is that something that you're actually seeing people experience often, is like the racism or this just the struggles of coming to Canada?
Yes, I can say for the mental health in young people, yes, I've seen a lot of that, especially when people have to like cover things up, and maybe some don't have support systems as much here, having to leave their country, getting into a new place, and then they are not, some of them are not even used to studying and working together. Now everything has to change, housing issues, like there's so much around settling down in a new place, new country, far from family. So for me, that's like a really, that's something I see often with young people in school. And yeah, so I see it a lot. It's common.
Mm-hmm. And like I can see that being such a compelling piece of work because you can dissect every aspect of those experiences into like, okay, here's the experience with racism, here's the experience with housing, here's the experience with experiencing new cultures and like
Yeah, and speaking to that, I think for me, it really resonates with me having a public health background, because that's more like the social determinants of health. Health in itself, like it's interlinked socially with all these components of housing.
it's like it's so interesting how you can really dissect the topic of mental health, especially with immigrants coming into Canada. And you see one side of racism that they may be experiencing, and also housing issues. And then coming into a new country where the culture is completely different and it's probably freezing in Halifax compared to wherever they may have lived before and stuff. So it's just like that experience and how that takes a toll on your mental health, I think would be such an interesting documentary to dissect and
Yeah.
see.
Yes, I agree absolutely. It, for myself, I've also been like an international student, so I can relate. And then having a public health background, there's something called the social determinants of health. Our health in itself is interlinked with all these things we've mentioned, like the housing, lifestyle factors, individual, it moves from individual, community, and then societal issues, like how they have to go through and navigate all these things, have a toll on their mental health. So like saying that on an individual, having multiple identities, intersectionality of all these factors coming to play, it's a whole lot. So yeah, that kind of documentary would really be something that interesting.
Hmm. And Andre, you have a documentary project, right? I don't know if it's documentary, but can you tell us about that? Like what you're working on?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'll start by acknowledging the project that I released last year, Standing Tall, on Senator Thomas Bernard, Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard. I was really grateful to be able to create that project, and it's been going really well. We've had different screenings around the community, and yeah, it was a really great first project for me to kind of sit in the director's chair and begin. And so now, lately, I've been shifting towards both mental health and education. And so I have a project that I'm working on in regarding African Nova Scotian narratives in education throughout the province, where we interview different African Nova Scotian learners across the last 35 plus years. And we really get to compare and contrast the experiences of people who've gone to school in North Preston, who've gone to school in the city of Halifax Central, who've gone to school in Bedford and in other different areas. And it's interesting to kind of see the parallels that connect us as Black learners, even in different regional spots. The other project I'm working on regarding mental health is looking at African Nova Scotian men and their connection with mental health and therapy, and reframing therapy in a way where we essentially have we're going back and forth with some different ideas with it right now, but we're looking to do essentially the relationship that Black men have with barbers, and how that connection can be very therapeutic. And, it's a comfortable, safe space for Black men to engage with another individual and, get some things off their chest and off their mind in a place that they'll feel supported, that isn't necessarily the structured sense of therapy. And I'm really excited about that project. One, because mental health is a big thing that's dear to my heart, but also in the way that it's a challenge. It challenges me to really reframe something. I was just saying that, mental health is a topic that's very dear to my heart. And I think as a filmmaker, looking at a way to restructure and reframe something that a lot of people are familiar with, but bringing it to them in a new visual way and with a new kind of structure is a great challenge that I really have been embracing in terms of filmmaking, and that I'm excited for. And so, essentially, yeah, I'm working on a project around mental health that I'm really enjoying, and also around Afrocentric education and African Nova Scotian learners and their experiences.
I love that. Two very important topics that you hear people in the community talk about it all the time. It's like kitchen table talk, but there's no one really putting a spotlight on it. And I feel like mental health with Black men it's been something that's been historically neglected. It's been something that men are told, you don't talk about your mental health. You're not supposed to cry, right? And so having something like that where, you know, men are there with their barbers and they're talking about their mental health and they're encouraged to talk about their mental health, someone else is going to see that and think, or maybe hopefully they put it in all the schools and they are like, it's okay to talk about my feelings. This is actually, it's like when you talk about your mental health and you work through that, it's like exercise for your brain, right? You work out when you want to build muscle and you want to, get fit or lose weight, but people don't talk about the importance of sitting down with a mental health counselor or just people that you can trust and working through what's up here. So I love that. And I love the idea of looking at the education system, because wherever Black people are in the province, their experience in school is so different. Like you go from North Preston to Bedford and it's a totally different dynamic of what that looks like. And I mean, me growing up in Nova Scotia and going through the system, I've seen it, and I've seen how other Black men specifically have been mistreated in school and things like that. And so I love that. So have you started the project already? Are you in the pre-production phase, or are you filming? Where are you at with these?
Yeah, so for the education one, I have created a trailer that I was very fortunate to showcase at the National Black Canadian Summit in Montreal last month. And that went very well. I had some people in the audience that were from different universities and institutions across the country that ended up reaching out to me to further continue a conversation regarding education and Black narratives. So that was phenomenal. And I hope to get some more funding to create that into more than just a trailer, but actually into a docu-series. Because I found that there was so many people, once I let people know what I was doing, there was so many African Nova Scotians that said, hey, I have a story, or I have an experience, or, hey, I would love to just be a part of this project. And so I decided, instead of just making it like a short, 40-minute special, I'm going to actually make it into a docu-series. And with the mental health project, currently I have about a 30-minute initial video with it that features a Black therapist, a young Black therapist, and a community leader. And they go back and forth talking about, how the therapist got into the industry, what it's like being a Black man in that industry professionally, and, some of the journeys that he's witnessed in terms of seeing his clients really go from point A to point B. And from a community leader standpoint, I have somebody who's able to talk about the realities of being in North End Halifax, and some of the pressures and some of the stigmas and some of the challenges and some of the achievements that we've overcome. And so I think it's a very nuanced conversation, and a very balanced conversation, and a very important conversation. And so I hope to use that video to, again, get more funding to create a series that can be accessed very easily online for a wide audience.
Mm-hmm. That is great. And everybody has a story. And that's one thing, is that everybody has a story. So if you could take someone, sit them down and talk with them, you will find a story within every person that you talk to. So that's one thing that I love about producing and working in this industry, is just hearing about people's lives. And, you wouldn't know unless you ask the questions. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when it comes to funding and, having support and like resources in Nova Scotia, do you guys have any go-to places? Like, I know there's the film corporation, and there's Neptune, and I can't really think of of any off the top of my head. But for those who are looking into getting into the industry and may want to apply for funding, or may want to figure out, how do I get a team, or how do I connect with other people in the industry? What are your go-to resources that you guys have depended on so far throughout your career in Halifax?
I think this is a good opportunity to really bring up that, part of being a filmmaker, part of that industry, and specifically being a filmmaker, is really having an entrepreneurial spirit, in the sense that, oftentimes you have to figure out in a unique, innovative way how to get funding, because, it can be a challenge. It's a big challenge most times, and it's not very straightforward, is what I'm trying to say. And so I think I look at someone like Ava DuVernay in one of her last projects, where, instead of going to the traditional studio route, she actually went through a philanthropic foundation to get funding for a film, and I think looking at whether it be I'm trying to do a project in the future about justice and law, and so I've been thinking about going to some law firms directly, and getting some funding that way instead of just going to, the same wells that all filmmakers in the city are going to, because, chances are if you're if you're applying along with 20 other people, then you have not so great of a chance than if you're applying to a foundation that is looking for, a young change maker and looking for a way to get involved in an industry that they're not very familiar with. And they have the funding for it. They just don't have that connection. So it's up to you to really be entrepreneurial and seek out new avenues, I think is a big note that I would say for upcoming filmmakers.
That is really good advice. Does anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, I think so too. Like Andre just hit the nail on the head, I would say, because being able to add value to people, like being able to sit down and think of, okay, I want to share this story, but who does it align with? And then what value can I give them? Helps you to match up and offer them something worthwhile and worth their time. So if it's just like you're going to pitch an idea to them, but then if you have the value points, so it's you sitting down and saying, how does my storyline align with their mission? So that way it's easier than them thinking, okay, so how does this benefit me? So once you're able to like fine tune that even at your end, by the time you're going there not as someone seeking for funds or seeking for resources, but as someone who is going to add to them. So I think for me, I would say that if young filmmakers can think more about like even do their own homework themselves, then it positions them better for funding opportunities. And then just like Shanice had mentioned earlier, you just have to start somewhere because people are also looking for track record and they want to see what you've done. So it might be something little, but then once you've done it well, then people can say, okay, I can trust you with fun, because nobody's just going to give you their money when they don't see like you've done something. And even this platform itself, BBIC, is a great place to start, where you don't necessarily have to put in like too much when it comes to funding, but you just have to show that you're ready to learn, you have the right skills, and then you're also someone that can be mentored. So yeah, I think.
Very good advice. Love that. Shanice, do you want to add to that?
I mean, I agree with everything that they said. As a newcomer, I would say that the library has been a great resource. I go to the library for everything. Like, the library is such an amazing resource. You find so many things there. If it's not in a book, they're advertising it. If it's not being advertised, you ask somebody at the service desk, and they will be able to assist you. So the library is an amazing resource.
That is also a really good tip. Thank you for that. Now we have
one more thing. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, yes. I was just about to add to what Shanice had just said. I think LinkedIn might also be a good resource because you don't necessarily have to think of people just within Nova Scotia when you need funds. Like you might be living in Nova Scotia, but that does not mean the funding you want to get is actually here. So you have to be able to like reach out to people, see what people are doing, and you follow them on LinkedIn. You can network with people in the film industry, reach out to them, just talk politely. You would see people share stories as well of how they got funding, or you can just reach out to people without restrictions. So that's what I wanted to add.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Social media, like, as well, just everybody has Instagram pages these days. A lot of the big like corporations that do the funding, like AFCO and all the other ones, right? So just like even following different pages and keeping up with their email alerts could be helpful. Um, we have to wrap things up, but before we do, does anybody want to share any final words of wisdom or advice, um, or throw out your social medias, ways that people can connect with you if they have any questions about your journey or potentially want to collaborate? Now's the time.
Yeah, so my social media is all the same. My first name, TV at the end, Shanice TV. All my projects are on YouTube. Some of them are on TikTok. Snippets are on Instagram. If you want to collaborate or just connect with me, just send me a DM. My email is always attached to my Instagram or in my YouTube descriptions. That's how you can find me.
Yeah, I did have, like, I will plug myself, but I did want to add one more thing, um, just to make a note of. So I just wanted to touch really quickly on authenticity in the industry. I feel that, the best stories are oftentimes the most authentic. And I try to make a conscious effort to involve people whose stories I'm telling. And what I mean by that is, if I'm working with a team of writers, I work with a team of writers that have lived experience with the topic. Even if I'm working with a team of producers, I will ideally try to find producers in the communities of which I'm doing the storytelling on. And of course, when you work with cast and talent, you want to make sure that you're picking out the right people that can really speak to ideally lived experience, or maybe they're just an expert in the field. But I feel like audience members can really pick up on whether or not a story is authentic or not. And the best way to create authentic stories is to have an authentic team. And I feel that oftentimes in the industry, people will say, let's cast a Black person to do a story about a Black person, but the director isn't Black and the writer's not Black and the producer doesn't have much cultural proximity, and then
Oh my gosh. Yes.
yeah, and the community members can pick up on that. So
Oh,
I
definitely.
just want to make a note. I always try to make a note to really encourage, true authenticity in the team behind the production.
Absolutely. That is such an important point, because there is one thing that I can tell, and it's if you have people who have lived experience working on the production, or if it's just somebody that's like, "Ooh, I have an idea. Let's dissect into this topic," and they have no idea, and it just you can it shows in the production, and it's no shade, but it's something that I have noticed, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we can pick up on that. So 100%. That is such a great point. And do you want to plug yourself?
Yeah, sure. So for the most part, I'm pretty Googleable. If you put in my first and last name, but my website is also just andreanderson.ca. And a lot of my information and my bio and some of the projects I'm working on and different things like that are on that website. And my contact information is there as well.
Awesome.
Okay. So for me, I think one of my final words will be like, just be you, and like you can actually be whatever you want to be if you just put your mind to it. So it's basically like I've said earlier, I have no background in the film industry, and I've just done little things. So like Shanice had said earlier too, you just have to start small, start somewhere. doesn't matter, like you don't have everything figured out right now. Like you can't, even people that are big in the industry, they don't have it all figured out. They just started from somewhere. So just believe in yourself, like, and every little thing counts. It's just like raindrops of water. Like everything counts. And then just put your mind at it and just continue to push, because one day you're going to be on the panel just like we are here today. And yeah, so for me, you can also Google my name. My name is Temitayo Shodunke. And then you can find my name on LinkedIn as well, my contact details.
Beautiful. You guys, it was such a pleasure chatting with you all. I had so much fun. I hope our viewers enjoyed the conversation just as much as I did. Thank you everyone for joining. And remember, you can explore the full program and secure your passes or individual tickets at halifaxblackfilm.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope to see you guys next time.
Bye.